Back by popular demand, this is the Turnbucklepad Podcast on YouTube.com. Respect wrestling or get out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Turnbucklepad Podcast. And as you know, this season we are reaching across the United States to speak with wrestlers and anybody else who might work in the wrestling business, because you never know what you're going to learn and everybody has a story to tell. Today my guest comes all the way from Premier Wrestling Federation, which is owned by Steve Corino in Hubert, North Carolina. I want y'all to welcome my friend and our guest, Mr. Joseph Black. Joe, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, buddy.
So how's the career treating you, man? What's some big things going on for you right now?
Right now, just trying to hit as many marks as possibly can. As you said, I'm working with Steve Corino and his promotion in North Carolina. He is a wellspring of knowledge himself, someone that I greatly admire and respect. So he's doing a lot of big things as far as the coast of North Carolina as a whole, as well as the TBP brand, which is, pro wrestling experience based out of Charlotte. They're doing a lot of big things. They like to liken themselves to like a PWG type market out of the East Coast. So they bring in a lot of top indie talent. So those guys are doing big things. Just trying to make my rounds, man, put as many miles on the speedometer as possible.
And that's the way you're supposed to do it. You read any wrestler's autobiography, you'll see in almost all of them that there are stories of guys living on the road, living out of their car, working for peanuts and pennies sometimes just for the sake of being able to experience this business and to get out there and be a part of it. Now, Joe, let me ask you a question. Because we talk a lot with our guests about the evolution of the wrestling business, the goods and the bads, with the current standings of the business. And one of the questions that I'm going to ask you, I haven't asked anybody yet, is that now that kayfabe's dead and the business is royally exposed, does that make it harder for people to be a locker room leader?
Well, that's what we like to call a slippery slope. It's sort of unfortunate, and I'm a stickler for the older way that the business is done. It's called the older way, even archaic, but I think it's the right way to do business, that I try to hold on to any semblance of kayfabe. But as you said, it's the lost art nowadays, the dying art, rather. The locker room leader, that is a very rare thing. When you go to some of these promotions that I frequent, there's a lot of guys who either think they're above the business, even though they haven't achieved any, success. And what I mean by success is, if you were to quit, you could actually live off of what you've been doing. And if you stop wrestling, that people actually remember you. So a bunch of indie hotshots, I like to call. So there's a lot of selfishness in the wrestling locker rooms. There's a few promotions that I go to that have clear-cut locker room leaders. These are what I call true veterans. For example, like I said, CWF, you got guys like Steve Corino. You have C.W. Anderson. You have guys like that who can point you in the right direction. You can pick their brains. They can tell you the right way to do things. Last Sunday, I was at NCW up in West Virginia, and they had DJ Flacco, formerly known as Just Incredible, and they had Shane Douglas. Shane was another guy that, we could go to, toss ideas that he could, shoot them down, give you the right way to do things. PWX has a guy named Zane Riley. It has Caleb Conley. It has Cedric Alexander, Jake Manning. It has a lot of guys that you can go and talk to, bounce ideas off of. But a lot of places that you go now, it's just, every man for themselves, devil may care, rebels without a cause, it's all over the place. And I think that's what, one of the causes of decline, if you want to consider it that, in morale in the locker room, is that it seems like everybody's out for themselves. So, it's one of those hodgepodge type of deals. Like, it depends on where you go, the location that you're wrestling out of. But for the most part, there are no locker room leaders nowadays. It's ego.
Those things were always needed to make I mean, I thought locker room leaders, I thought they were like essential to the business to help the next generation of wrestlers to understand the business and to carry it on and really get it, because there's so much more to being a wrestler than just getting in a ring and doing some cool moves. I mean, there's an art to it, a passion, a story that comes with it. And I think a lot of these guys nowadays don't really pay attention to the story. It's just a spot fest mostly. Is that something you come across a lot, or is it like what you just said? It depends on where you go.
Nowadays, it's becoming a lot more frequent. You have promotions that, I used to get before. It's a good mixture. You have the guys who may not have a lot in terms of ring psychology, who may just be, the spotty type, slippy type guys. I don't want to detract from any of these guys because in the business world, for brothers, world, for have each other's back, that was supposed to.
Right.
So I don't try to knock any man's hustle. And I think the show has a spot for every type of different person. You have the guy that go out there and maybe do this cool flip or this cool move sequence, but he may not know how to, sell properly. He may not know how to transition. He may not know how to tell a story through action. Then you have, the guys who will go out there and who can work a headlock and can elicit the same response from the crowd that this guy did with a flip. And I just think it's every show needs a little bit of everything to be a good show. You have your guys that can do all the cool flips and stuff. You have, the rooted in the old tradition of wrestling where we will tell you a story that you're going to think about when you read the show.
Yeah.
And then you have the guys who, can seamlessly blend all that together. So I think you need a little bit of everything in a show, but, mostly it's just, hey, I can do the slip, and I can do this kick, let's do the sequence. I'm going to kick out your finisher 5 times, you kick out of mine a couple times, and then we're going to roll up. Schoolboy's going to be finished right. That seems to be the trend nowadays, I guess, but,
Yeah, it does. Let me ask you another question here. Because the way the business was founded, you had to look like a wrestler. You had to look like a gladiator, basically. Fit, cut, built. It just looked like someone that's very eye-catching. And because the business has evolved so much, and you've seen so many guys now who've came into wrestling that don't look like wrestlers, do you think this has been a good thing in a sense when it comes to the creativity of the business? Being able to look at people you wouldn't normally go to or think, hey, they might know something?
Yeah, I think it's been beneficial, in my opinion. When I started 7.5 years ago, I was under 25 pounds, maybe. I had no distinguishing look about myself. But the way that I wanted to wrestle, which most people would call a strong style, I call the right style. I came up looking up to guys like Jericho, Benoit, Guerrero. So I wanted to be that guy. But, at 125, no one's going to believe anything that you do unless you do a flip at that time. So
Right.
I put on, over 7 years, I put on a lot of weight. Now I'm at 203. And, now I have a distinguishing look about myself, and that's usually the first thing someone notices about me. I like to think that I can get in the ring and I can throw down, I can do technical, I can do whatever, and I can also cut an engrossing promo. But the first thing people notice about me is like, hey, that Joe Black kid, he's pretty solid. And that's good for me because now you see me, I have a distinguishing look. Now that means that I already have you. So that means everything else that I do in the ring complements what you already think about me. But a lot of guys that I think highly of, they don't have that archetype, of a wrestler. A lot of guys are considered the antithesis of what a wrestler 20, 30 years ago looks like. But these are the guys who are driving the business forward. These are the guys who get in there and risk. I know we all pretty much put our life on the line, but these are the guys willing to go that extra mile just because they know, hey, I'm not this big cut 6'5" former football player dude. I'm just, the regular 5'10", 5'8", 6'1". I might be a little bit flabby, but I can work 10 times better than this dude that looks like a mountain of, manliness, if you will. So I think it's been more beneficial than harmful. If you look at the top guys and, the top indies there now, most of these guys are not the guys we grew up looking at. These aren't Macho Man, these aren't Hulk Hogan, Sid Vicious, these aren't, Kevin Nash. These are guys like Kevin Owens. These are guys like Daniel Bryan. These are guys who you would never look at. Back in those days, those guys would have been enhancement talent. They already would have been in the ring, when they came out the commercial break.
Guys like that were used for jobbing.
The banner. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing how that changed. I think, like you said, I think it has been a benefit 'cause it's given creativity a new story. But on the same token, though, stop me if I'm wrong or if you're bothered by this too. But sometimes when you see the David and Goliaths in the match, and you see David, power bombing Goliath, it's little things like that fans find discouraging because fans are a lot smarter nowadays now that they know about the business. So
things like that, I don't agree. Like, I'm a smaller dude in terms of height, but if I'm wrestling like the guy that I usually tear up the road with, Will Huckabee, he's about 5'10", about 295 pounds. I'm not going to power bomb him. I'm not going to give him a German suplex. If I do give him something, it's going to be meaningful. It's going to be near the end of the match, last reserve, desperation, last ditch effort type deal. But I'm not going to throw him around in a match like you see, proliferate in the indies nowadays. I don't think that's believable. That's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and I think that's probably some of the insight and some of the things that fans are using when they're watching matches. I think a lot of the fans right now, they're waiting for something new, something believable. And if you go to a lot of the independents, like here in Chicago, there are so many because everybody thinks they can do it, and you see the same thing everywhere. So fans get bored after a while, and they're just, wrestling needs something to make it special again, to kind of break this pattern of what we see nowadays.
I agree.
So what are some other common things you come across that you think would make the business better?
There's a guy named Chip Day who wrestles a lot on the East Coast, and he has the archetype of, like we talked about, like you wouldn't, back in the day, he wouldn't fit the bill of a wrestler. I mean, I wouldn't either. But he is a genius. He's one of those type of guys. He's 10 years in, but he's so selfless that he'll put a little piece of himself in everybody's matches to make everything flow so much better. He'll offer his advice, he'll give his critique, and this is a guy who you don't have to ask this of. He just loves the business so much and loves, whatever show that we're on. He loves the fact that these people, are paying to see us, breathe life into this passion we have. So he wants to make the best product possible. Guys like that, I love coming across them. Those are things that we need across the board. Guys who are so selfless that, hey, I know I might be in the main event. I might be semi-main. I know I'm one of the marquee guys here. But, never mind that. I'm gonna do what I can to make everybody's match, build to a crescendo, the Damon Wise, so when we hit the climax, this is a show that people are gonna leave, and instead of just being like, hey, that was a good show, they're gonna leave like, that was an awesome show. I have to tell somebody about it. So that's one of those things, when I come across the veterans that I have the pleasure of running into, be it a Tommy Dream or be it a Carino working with him. I met Tuco Scorpio recently. Guys like that who will willingly and gladly sit you down and put you under the learning tree and tell you how things were back in the day. Because wrestling really hasn't changed. The machine is the same. It's just now it has a different configuration as far as operations. But the machine itself is still the same machine. So they're willing to give you little, caveats, if you will, about how to do things professionally, how to be a businessman. I've run into a lot of guys younger in the business who are so hungry. And I remember when I started, I was hungry, but I was also discouraged and jaded because I was so small. I didn't think I would make any waves in the business. So I was kind of just going through the motion. Hey, I love the sport, but I'm not going to be anything in it. So I'm just kind of here. But these guys, they're smaller guys, younger guys, but they're so hungry. Hey, let me help take down the ring. I'll clean the bathrooms. I'll be, I'll grab the gear. I'll be security. I'll be the referee. I just want to be around the business. So there's a lot of things that I come across in my travels that, there's a lot of things you see that discourage you, a lot of things that piss you off. When you run into indie superstars who have no contract, but somehow they're above the business. But seeing these little things kind of gives me faith that we're headed in the right direction, and maybe we could spark this fever of wrestling that used to be, all around the world as a pandemic. Maybe we can get it back to that place again.
Yeah, and it would be great too. I think one of the things that needs to happen is that people like you just described, who they're just indie workers. They're not. They didn't make it. They didn't go nowhere, so they don't really have the right to walk around with a chip on their shoulder like they're above the business. I think that is a good formula, and that can get business back to where it needs to be, and that kind of helps filter out those people, because I think those particular types of people are who damage the business. And let me ask you this: have you ever been at a show and it was a company where kayfabe does not run at all, and after your match, you go out to the lobby and you saw two guys in the match that was prior to you out in the lobby just hanging out like nothing happened with the fans? Does that kind of like bother you when you see that?
I haven't seen that in a while, but I have seen it, and I didn't have any, gusto to say anything at that point. I think I was 3 years in, so at that point you just learn to shut up and observe.
Right.
But, when you see two guys who are embroiled in the blood, so to speak, and they're in the rubber match, this cage match, weapon, whatever. It's a bigger match, a marquee match, but they're in eye shot within the hundreds of people that paid a ticket. You can assume they paid a ticket to see this marquee match, but people can see you in the same area, not so much interacting with each other, but you're at the concession stand, this dude is walking to the bathroom, the people are kind of looking back and forth, like, hey, these guys are supposed to hate each other, these guys are in this crazy match later on, but they're within earshot of each other, and they're just like, like baseball about it. Back in the days, you never would have seen Flair in the same area as Dusty.
No, you wouldn't.
You never would have seen something like that, period.
Yeah.
And that was the time where it was beautiful, because the fans really legitimately thought, hey, okay, these guys really hate each other. Okay, the Horsemen really must have broke Dusty's arm. Like, these guys, you never see them in the same place. There's security, so it was a semblance of, okay, these guys have to be kept separate until the match goes on. They even came out from different locker rooms, but now it's like that war is gone. You see these two guys, they hate each other, they beat the shit out of each other in the match, and they go through the same curtain, the same little area in the armory. So now your belief is a little bit suspended. Like, okay, well, if they're in the same area, this match shouldn't happen. And me and my partner, Will Humphrey, down in AWE, we're in a feud with these guys named Team IOU. I'm pretty sure you heard of them. Mickey and carry off these guys, they're carnies, they're crazy. But when we wrestle each other, it's so much chaos. Last time we wrestled each other, we were wrestling in the middle of, fighting each other in the middle of Atlanta, literally. We were in the middle of the street on the side of the masquerade. And to the fans that were watching it, we hated each other. There was so much chaos, and you never saw us in the same area. And if you did happen to see these two guys on one side of the building, you saw us on the other side, there was always something in between us. There was always some other workers between us. There was always some security between us. Even when we made eye contact, it was so electric that people could know that these guys they can go at any moment. And that's rare. Because usually people forget that they have a problem with each other as soon as that bell rings the second time.
Yeah.
Even if there's been fans around. So, it's just one of those things. I'm old school in my thinking maybe, but,
Well, the old school had the best values. The old school kept the business protected. And because it was protected, that was what kept people guessing, throughout the years before it got exposed. Is it real? Is this really real? It was that question that really speculated people, which was good because that's what captured interest and make them watch. Now it's not even like that at all. You really got to try 4 to 5 times harder to try and even get close to that level with just like a mid-card or an opening or a main event match, just to try and sell it that more.
Exactly.
So, Joe, we got a question for you that we ask all our guests on the Turnbucklepad. And I'd like to see what you're going to say to this.
Okay.
What advice would you give to somebody that wants into the business or somebody that's new in the business?
The biggest piece of advice I can give is listen. When I started out, I thought that because I could do one cool move, that I had the right to voice my opinion. I had the right to let my voice be heard in any opportune moment in my mind. And I had to get my lumps from true men, and I had to learn the hard way that when you first start, the best thing you can do is to listen. Listen to everything you possibly can, including any kind of information that you can. When I first started, me and this guy Eric Boyle from CWF, we would help set up the ring, we would clean the facility. If we needed to sell concessions, we would. But we would just stand around the locker room and listen to these guys talk. And you could pick up so much, helpful information by just listening. Also, don't be so confined to your thought that I want to wrestle. Because if you do that, you're going to become jaded really quick. When I first started, like I said, I was 125 pounds. There was nothing special about the patient kids in Greensboro at all. So what my trainer said is, hey, I'm a year and a half in. I came up with guys like Trevor Lee, Andrew Everett. Cedric Alexander was right down the road in Charlotte training. These guys are already traveling, and me, I'm still here in Burlington. I'm not able to wrestle for whatever reason. So my trainer was like, hey, I want you to wrestle. And he handed me a referee shirt. It was the most discouraging thing ever to someone like me. Like, serious? My peers are the main event of this show designed for younger guys who want me to wrestle. But from 2 years of refereeing, I learned something that my peers never did. I saw all sides of the ring. I learned how to communicate in the ring. I learned how to utilize ref in every meeting. I learned how to read people, the fans in the arena of my opponent, just from refereeing for 2 years. So don't short-sight yourself by saying, I have to wrestle, because you're going to be disenfranchised. Try to do everything that you can. I was security. I was secure guy. I helped put up the ring, take down the ring. I sold concessions. I mingled with the fans, because now I have a remote perspective from standing in the locker room listening to mingling with the fans. Try to see it from every angle that you can. Get to practice before everybody else does. And stay after everybody else leaves. Anytime that you can get in the ring, be in the ring. If you're ever on a show with someone who's been anywhere in the business, whether it's ECW, WWE, New Japan, ROH, anyone that had any semblance of success, you need to sit under the learning tree if they're willing. You can't make them want to, be helpful, but if they're willing to talk to you, like most of them are, learn everything that you can from these guys. Learn everything that you can from even these guys in the locker room who think they're above the business. You can learn something from them, because these are the guys that are going to fizzle out, or they're going to be indie superstars for the rest of their career. Be humble. I don't care how much, you might attain. There's a lot of guys that, look to me for advice, and they're a lot further than 2 years than I was 4 years ago. But I try to tell them, even though there's a lot of odds on you, never lose your humility, because the second that you do, you just shock yourself in the foot. So I guess what I would tell, them is those things. Listen. Don't speak. Listen. Listen with your eyes as well. Try to do everything that you can in the business to help you to become a better wrestler. Also realize that not everybody is cut out to be a wrestler. Don't let that discourage you. You can be a part of the business without being in the ring wrestling necessarily. And try to find a veteran. A veteran that's been there, and a veteran who's been doing this for a while, and sit under the learning tree and doing everything that you can. So those would be the things, the little pieces of advice I would give someone trying to break into this business.
Well, those are golden words, very golden words, and fans, you're going to hear a lot of this. So if you're an aspiring wrestler, or you're that fan who wants to be a wrestler, and I think Joe would agree with me on this, is do your homework and listen to those who came before you and pick their brain, because they're the ones who knows what they're doing. You always respect your elders and those who came before you, because they know what's going on. So Joe, if fans wanted to find you, how can they find you?
On Facebook, I'm Joseph Madara, M-A-D-A-R-A, Blackwell, well as in W-A-I-L. I'm on Facebook there, and then on Instagram, I'm Cloudy9, and on Twitter, I'm BlackCloudJP. Those, I don't know how to use Snapchat. Those are the three social media outlets that you can find me at. So yeah, hit me up.
All right. Well, fans, this has been exclusive from Mr. Joseph Black. Joe, we really thank you for taking the time out and coming on the show. Fans, he already told you how to find him. He's not a hard man to find, and keep your eyes on him. Until then, fans, this is Mike Stover, and this has been my guest, Mr. Joe Black, and we're out.